Buonasera a tutti, almeno qualche parola in italiano per i bolognesi e gli italiani in sala. Sono molto contenta di essere qui. And now English. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be here in Bologna speaking at the opening ceremony of the annual conference of the European Academy of Religion. Thank you very much to Jocelyn Cesari for the opportunity, and I would like to thank especially the Fondazione per le Scienze Religiose Giovanni XXIII, and particularly Alberto Meloni and Francesca Cadetto. Grazie. I'm a journalist. I have been writing about religion for almost 20 years for the Spanish newspaper La Vanguardia in Barcelona, also in Rome, and presently in Berlin, where I am a foreign correspondent. So when I was preparing myself for this speech tonight, I asked myself as a journalist, what would be the most appropriate headline for an audience of distinguished religion scholars? And after reflection, I came across this one, which is a bit long, not very colorful, but quite clear and right to the point. And the headline is, "A sober defense of the importance of religion news in mainstream media." This approach is not surprising if we think of the organization that I am representing here, the International Association of Religion Journalists, IARJ. And the best way to introduce you to the IARJ is to read our mission statement. It is a short paragraph. Don't panic. I read. The International Association of Religion Journalists is a global network of journalists promoting excellence in the coverage of religion and spirituality. It provides services and resources to strengthen and support the work of its members. It engages media leaders, educational institutions, and communities on the importance of accurate, balanced, and ethical religion coverage to foster understanding. End of quote. So, global religion journalism comes with great responsibility. Today, around the world, many conflicts have a religious factor. Religion journalists have a role in not really diffusing the conflicts because the conflicts are real, but in clarifying the issues and in being fair in the representation of them and of the people involved. Of course, some of our societies, particularly in Europe, are experiencing a profound secularization and therefore a religious decline, whereas other countries experience right the opposite, a revival. In any case, religion plays a very important role in the daily life of millions of people around the world, and we are a community of professionals who care enough about that to want to portray their beliefs and practices and their conflicts with accuracy, fairness, and balance. Complaining about the press is a must worldwide. But in recent years, media have faced increasing criticism for their coverage of religious matters. Newspapers, news websites, television, or radio are regularly accused of stereotyping certain religious communities or of a predilection for negative stories, be it scandals, violence, or drama, or to report only on religious leaders in detriment of the real people. The mission of the media is to show and explain what is going on in society. In that sense, media are a sounding board of images and ideas already present in society, but at the same time, the media contribute to shape those images and ideas and to shape the public opinion. And religion is a part of society, and that is the reason why it deserves a place in the media. Media have an inevitable influence in portraying the role of religion in society, and subsequently on the way that religious communities are understood by global audiences. There is a huge debate in the profession about this point, bigger than one may expect, mainly because in almost all countries, religion and politics often overlap in controversial ways. Also, two issues that should be separated, but that are usually put together in quite an unfair way, contribute to this huge debate. It happens particularly in Europe, but also overseas, in the United States and in some countries in Latin America. Those two issues are terrorism and migration. The war in Syria, jihadism and the ISIS, and the wave of refugees seeking asylum in Europe with its peak in 2015 have marked a turning point. Populist parties have jumped on these topics, often proclaiming themselves as defenders of Christian Western civilization in front of invasion of mainly Muslim migrants who apparently have all and each of them a secret agenda to take over the whole continent. All these topics have raised awareness in media outlets across Europe about the importance of having reporters with knowledge of religion, because new storylines have emerged and are presently developing, with religion situated at its core. Take, for instance, Rome. At this point of history, the Holy See, the Pope, and the Roman Catholic Church have become relevant protagonists of international news, even in the most distant places. They were already, but usually during conclaves and papal flights. Now we have seen in the last days with the Vatican Summit on sexual abuse of minors by clergy, that was a global story. And what happens sometimes? Sometimes you get some journalists parachuted in the Vatican to cover extremely complex and nuanced issues without being schooled in the difference between a cardinal and a bishop. So let's have a look at what's going on in Europe now for religion journalists. Because of the changing religious landscape, religion journalists have to address a bigger religious and cultural diversity. They face a thorny task in the intersection of religion and migration, particularly when reporting about refugees, Islam, and European and national politics. They have to counteract hate speech and fake news, and they have to do it in the digital age with new tools and new challenges. And let's face it, the fact remains that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, to name the three monotheistic religions, are ancient and together accumulate thousands of years of history and tradition. And that is not easy to reflect and to explain in newspaper, radio, TV, or new media formats. Ongoing discussions within the International Association of Religion Journalists tackle these issues. Some in our ranks say that religion reporting should be treated in exactly the same way as any other journalism bit, like political or crime or sport reporting. Others say that in the respective countries, it is acceptable for reporters to produce articles that reflect what could be called positive discrimination of religious minorities. Others in our group say that religious views should be no more worthy of protection from criticism and scrutiny than any other views. Some say the opposite, that religion topics deserve special respect in the press because they touch a very fundamental part of the sentiments of the people. And some say no, and claim that the definition of a free press is a press that has the right to offend, to antagonize, and to be critical of any subject. But in spite of all this, there are still many editors in our newsrooms who are reluctant to run religion news, and that they only accept them when they are related, as I mentioned before, to migration, terrorism, or politics. In Europe, the situation is described in a broader frame: the precariousness of journalism as a job as a result of the business crisis in the media. In Europe, religion journalists are usually general reporters with religion as a sub-beat. They have to combine it with other work. And sometimes editors of liberal background assume that these reporters are acting in a partisan way, even if working for non-confessional media. And this is precisely what we are looking for with the newly established Piazza Grande Religion Journalism Award. Creating this new award was an idea of Alberto Meloni, and in a visit I paid to Bologna months ago, he asked me, would the IARJ be interested in such a project? And I said, yes, great. And we started developing the project. This new award will reward annually a distinguished example of religion reporting appeared in a newspaper, magazine, or news website that publishes regularly in countries of geographical Europe, including Iceland and Russia, and in all countries of the Mediterranean basin. The award will be assigned by the IARJ together with the Fondazione delle Scienze Religiose, and it will be announced annually in the framework of the annual conference of the European Academy of Religion. So first winner next year around the same dates. The award bears a very beautiful name, Piazza Grande Religion Journalism Award. There is a Piazza Grande in Bologna, there are big squares, Piazza Grande, in many European cities, and these words convey an idea of forum for public debate, which fits very well in the philosophy of the project. In my case, as coordinator of the new award, I feel particularly honored and committed. I think religion journalism is particularly vocational. Journalism is a very hectic, energy-consuming, vocational job. It intrudes into the personal sphere of the reporter. It crashes family plans for the weekend. You go to bed with a damn story in your head, with that source that you keep calling and doesn't answer, with the conflicting views about the topic you are covering with the deadline approaching. But as I mentioned before, I dare to say that within journalists, religion journalists are particularly vocational, because very often, apart from the work itself, they face an additional challenge in the newsroom, a challenge posed by their own colleagues. Religion journalists in the newsroom have to address the perplexity, skepticism, diffidence, even the mockery of their fellow journalists. And then, these religion reporters, they are the ones who make, in front of their bosses in the newsroom, a sober defense of the importance of religion news in mainstream media, which is, you may remember, the headline of the story I have humbly tried to tell you tonight. Thank you very much for listening.